Have you ever seen a knife design that you thought was amazing, only to find that it got discontinued soon thereafter? How's it going, everybody? I'm Rollshambo, the connoisseur and collector of all things sharp and shiny, and let me know in the comment section down below, when was the last time you saw that happen to a knife that you really liked and you wish that it was still available? If you would, while you're down there, smack up the like button and let YouTube know that you enjoy knife content. Today, we're talking about a knife from Kansept that was so good. Not only did they keep it in circulation after last year, they started coming out with new variants of it. And I'm excited because they gave me the opportunity to check out one of their new variants. So shout out and thank you to Kansept for making that possible. I can't wait to discover just how good this one is and also revisit a model that I thought was absolutely fantastic. Let's talk about the Kansept Fenrir.
Keep the change, you filthy animals.
Welcome in, everybody. This is the Kansept Fenrir, and the one that was sent to me is the black stonewashed version with CPM S35 and the red, black, and white carbon fiber. You heard that correctly. This is not G-Mascus. This is, in fact, carbon fiber. And I think that that's pretty dang sweet. Now, this is not our first foray with this model. I actually got the original release for a much different variant of this same knife. If you want to see the review on that, you can definitely check back on my channel. I put it out a long time ago, but when they reached out and said, hey, would you like to check out this new variant of the Fenrir, there was no way that I could say no. I could not pass this up because when I saw that carbon fiber, I knew I had to talk about it. And I wanted to see, how did I feel about this knife model a year later? So here we are. We're going to talk about the specs. We'll talk about what I like. We'll talk about what I don't like, and then I'll give you my final thoughts. And speaking of specs, let's go ahead and talk about what exactly went into making this knife. The overall length is going to be just shy of 8 inches long. It's got a 3.5-inch blade made out of CPM S35 VN. The handle scales are titanium with this red, white, black, and blue patterned carbon fiber. It has barrel spacers, 3D milled titanium pocket clip. The pivots are not single-sided, but they are in fact running on bearings, so that's pretty good. You also get a lanyard hole in case that's your thing. The handle scales are in what's called a reverse bolster lock style. Now, typically when we see bolster locks, you have the titanium piece up here at the top and whatever overlay piece near the bottom. Now, I remember I actually did have a conversation with Greg Schaub about a year ago when the initial version came out, and I asked him why he went for that. And he said it was so people didn't have to worry about putting too much pressure on that lock bar when they're holding the knife. That's fantastic, considering that this has a front flipper and too much pressure on the lock bar would make it difficult to flip. But based on his design, where it actually has the carbon fiber overlaying the frame lock, it's not typically an issue that you have to worry about. On the pivot itself, that is in fact a T10 screw. For the body screws, we're looking at T6. You do have some jimping right here on the flipper tab, but that is primarily because it is, well, a front flipper. You also get this thumb stud here and a tiny bit of billboarding. You have the Kansept logo there, and on the other side, you've got the Sparrow Knife Company, that's Greg Schaub, and also it says Greg Schaub right there and Fenrir. This Fenrir is so very cool, and I love it because it's different. You know, it's not going to be the, plain silver and black. You know, like they actually went for it with this carbon fiber, and there's so many cool things that you can do with carbon fiber these days that I think that that's a really nice variant option. While we're at it, let's go ahead and do some quick comparisons. First up, we'll go against the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. This is a very popular Spyderco knife. The Spyderco Paramilitary 2 is going to be a little bit longer than the Fenrir. As far as carry profile, these are going to be spot on as far as handle scale, width, and thickness. That's pretty awesome. Let's go ahead and try it up against another knife. We'll do the Spyderco Manix 2. This is another popular one that a lot of people have. For the Manix 2, much like the Paramilitary 2, is going to be a little bit longer. As far as the blade profile is concerned, they're actually very similar. So if you're used to the Manix 2 profile in your pocket, it shouldn't be any issue with the Fenrir. As far as the ergonomics are concerned, that's one of my favorite things about this knife. You'll notice the chamfered over scales as well as this finger cutout right here for your index finger. Even without choking up on here, I can still get a very confident 4-finger grip. If you do want to choke up on here, the good news is that you 100% absolutely can. This harpoon style drop point blade is awesome because it has cutouts both at the top and at the bottom, meaning that you get a very secure locked in grip. Now, if you're wondering about a reverse grip, maybe you want a more defensive posture, it works really well in this position as well because of the way that the handle scales angle outward near the end. You can cap off with your thumb, no problem. Are there any hot spots on this knife? No, and I'm happy to report that the clip is also not a hot spot because it is also chamfered over and 3D milled. It looks good, and it also doesn't cause any ergonomics issues. As far as the carry depth in your pocket, it's going to be pretty good. It's going to come up right here behind these two screws, leaving about, I would say, a 1/2 to 1/4 inch sticking out of your pocket. Not bad at all. I love how choked up you can get on this knife for nice detailed work. Draw cuts, pull cuts, things of that nature are going to come very, very naturally to this knife. I also appreciate the swedge up here at the top of the blade. That's going to offer some really nice cutting relief, and I'm going to make sure that you can slice nicely and confidently through whatever the material it is that you're facing. That's right, whatever the material is, even if it's adamantium, you can slice through it. Okay, maybe not, but it is a very, very good slicer, and it comes down to a nice thin pokey tip here, so it's also going to be good for puncturing as well. Something else that I appreciate about the knife is the balance. Now, the balance on here is going to come in right here at this finger groove, and it's nice. That's where you want the balance to be on a blade because that's where you're going to be holding it most of the time. You don't always have to be in a choked up grip. And so when you're holding it back here like this, it is nice when you can go ahead and have good balance. It's going to lend to some really confident indexing of the blade itself. Now let's talk about some things that I'm not a huge fan of, because while I really, really love this knife, there are a few things that I would tweak if I had my druthers. The first thing is this lock bar. Now the lock bar is not uncomfortable and there is plenty of access to it, but I would have preferred had that lock bar been chamfered over a little bit. It would have just made accessing that lock a little bit more comfortable. Secondly, I really do enjoy the front flipper on here, and Greg Chaub told me that he meant this to be a really good front flipper for beginners. However, there's also a thumb stud here, and I know that some people would actually prefer that it wasn't there at all. Personally, I don't mind it, but I would love to see a variant that instead of having a thumb stud, maybe has a fuller going down the length of the blade. Having the ability to reverse flick with a fuller would be absolutely phenomenal and very, very addicting. So Greg, Kansept, if you guys are out there, please consider doing that. That would be absolutely fantastic. As far as the rest of the knife is concerned, I don't really have too many other complaints. I do wish that the body screws were T8, but they're not. That's something that I can live with, and most people really aren't going to have an issue with. I really do appreciate the fact that we have T10 on the pivot. It's going to mean that the pivot life is going to be very, very good. Now, up until this point, we have not talked about the price point. I saved the best for last. This is going to come in at $178, and you can currently find it on their Amazon store and on their website. If you're interested in picking one of these up, I'll definitely link it down below. The reason why that price point is impressive for this knife is because you get carbon fiber, you get titanium, you get S35VN, which is an amazing premium user steel. And usually when you're looking at a material combination and a design combination like this, you're going to be paying a whole lot of extra money for a designer knife that can also be used with these premium materials. $178 for this knife is what I consider to be pretty much a steal. Let's do a quick QC check while we're on the topic. Blade centering is perfect. Lock up, lock out. Yeah, less than zero blade play when it's locked out. The lockup itself is going to be coming in there right at about, I would say, 30%. Yeah, very confident lockup and lockout. There's no pivot lash. There's no detent lash. Speaking of the detent, it's pretty dang good. You pop that thumb stud and it's going to fly out. While we do have a few nitpicks on this knife, overall, this is an amazing model, and it's no doubt that they came out with it again. This was extremely popular when it first released last year, and it's only continued in its popularity. Now, these do have a tendency to sell out, so make sure you check the links below if you're interested, because they do come back into stock. If you follow Kansept Knives on Instagram, they will also let you know when they have new models. And let me know in the comment section down below, have you tried a Fenrir yet? What do you think of these crazy red, black, white, and blue carbon fiber scales? Which variant would you like? Let me know. And if you want to watch more awesome knife content, make sure you click on the video that pops up next.